Hi, my name is Jori. Welcome back to Shattered Silence. I am here with Elaine today. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm excited to hear excited is kind of a weird way to put it, but thank you for coming in and sharing your story and I guess kind of being vulnerable on sometimes things that you don't really want to talk about, you know, and that's why we're here. Just kind of want to, our main goal is just to bring awareness to everything, the mental health, the addiction, recovery, all kinds of things here. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was really excited when I can talk about my son all day long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just give me a microphone and I'll go. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and happy to tell his story and my story along the way and who he was and who he continues to be.
Right. So, yeah. And I know that, that's kind of how I am too when it comes to Kyle. It's like sometimes people kind of want to tiptoe around it and you're just like, no, just talk about him. It's
don't
fine.
Tiptoe.
Yeah. And if I have some tears, it's okay. That's kind of normal sometimes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And but just talk about it. Yeah. So, what I usually like to do, I don't want to pry, you know what I mean? I don't like people to share more than what they're comfortable with. So I'll just let you kind of share your story and kind of what happened. And
timing is everything. And so it was May 28th. It was 6 years. And I don't like looking at time that way because I remember year one, and I'm thinking, how am I going to even get to year two? And I almost didn't. But so my son Joseph, I have 3 children. Joseph was the oldest, and we lost him. He was 27, and I have my second child is my daughter Allie, our daughter. My husband always says, "Why do you say my?" Our daughter is Allie, and she's at the time she was 20. I don't know. I'm terrible with math, but
me too.
She's 20
okay.
And then my youngest, Juliana, was 20. She was turning 21 that year. So he passed away May 28th of 2018.
Okay.
And so it was sudden. It was unexpected. He didn't come home it was a Memorial weekend, the holiday. Oh. He called me that night before and said, "Hey, Ma, I'm going to stay at my friend's house and I'll see you in the morning," which was common. Yeah. And so he came home, and it was kind of when you look back at things, you start to see there's in the moment you're not thinking that stuff.
Right.
Why would we think that? So when I look back, it was a really odd day because I was taking care of my granddaughter at the only time at that time she was the only one, Ella, and she got sick that day. She was just out of nowhere. She just started getting sick. And so we went up. We were in Joe's room for a little bit because it was the coldest room, and then we went upstairs. And I heard him. He came home. He was very loud. He walked loud. He talked loud. He laughed loud. Everything was. He was just loud. We all are. And so I heard him come in, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, I'm home." And I was like, "Joe, come upstairs." So he went to. I heard him go to the garage. He got a water. I heard him go to the bathroom, go to his room, and then he's like, "I'll call you later. I love you." Like, Joseph. And so I never saw him. I heard him, and then I called him. I'm like, "Hey, what's up? What's up, Buttercup?" I used to we would go back and forth, and he's like, so we talked for a second, and then he goes, "Oh, I love you. I'll be home later." Okay. So later came, and I called him, and there was no answer. And I called him, and there was no answer. And it was odd for him not to answer or call me back. And so as the evening progressed, it's like midnight, and it was weird because there was this the night was really still. Again, looking back, and it was, we heard this popping sound out on the street. We lived off of a main street on Bernard, and there was this popping sound. And so my husband stood up and he goes, "Is Joe home?" And I said, I don't know. I've been trying to call him. He did not answer. And he goes, "Well, go check." So I ran downstairs and opened his door, and he wasn't home. And there was no return calls or nothing. And I said, "Something's wrong."
Yeah, you just have a feeling.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm messaging him. Now I'm going, Joe, just call me back. Let me know you're okay. Sometimes he would stay the night at friends and he'd fall asleep, and they'd be golfing all day and they'd fall asleep.
Right.
So when I got to work, I was grabbing my computer and stuff because I was going to work from home that day. And I called my niece. She came in and she took me to work. And I got a phone call. I called a friend of his and I said, hey, Joe didn't come home. I'm trying to reach him. She's like, he didn't? And I said, no. And she's like, I go, can you call a couple of his friends and see where he's at? Because I don't want to seem like a helicopter mom.
Right, right.
Which I was.
Yeah.
And so, like 5 minutes later, she calls me and she's crying. She's just crying so hard I couldn't understand what
And
she
this
was
is
saying.
a friend?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
A friend of his. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. What are you saying? And so the only word I heard was coroner. And I remember like going, I dropped the phone and I was at work. I was in the office and I went into this, it was a testing room. Mm-hmm. So nobody could, and I just fell to the floor and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm screaming. And a couple of my coworkers came and they took me outside and I'm just beside myself. And so my coworker said, Elaine, I'm going to take you to your husband. Mm-hmm. He worked right next door at Cal State.
Okay.
And so as we're driving, I get a phone call and it's Joe's phone, and I'm like, oh God, thank God, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, Joe, where are you? And it's this lady on the phone, and she's like, are you Joseph Suarez's mother? And I remember like going, no, you need to put Joe on the phone, And she just was like, Mrs. Suarez, and she just, it was so just like not, it was very, like her words were so strong. Mm-hmm. And she's like, your son has died, and we're taking him to the coroner, and we will, we're gonna, we have to keep him. This is now an investigation, and I'm like, and I just, in that moment, I couldn't, like, I literally could not, like, move. I couldn't, mm-hmm. I couldn't feel my legs. I didn't hear her anymore after that. And so as my friend is pulling up to my husband's job, I just remember, like, I got out of the car and I saw him, and he was on a little truck, and he's driving. He works in landscaping. And I just remember, like, I can still see it today. Like, he's driving and I'm running after him and I'm screaming his name. And he can't hear me, and he's screaming, and I'm just running, and he keeps going further from me, and he makes a U-turn, and he sees me, and he gets off the truck, and he's like, babe, what's wrong? And I'm like, he goes, is it Joe? And I said, yeah, it's Joe. And I just remember, like, he goes, I've been trying to call him all morning, and I just was like, he grabbed me, and we literally just, like, fell to the ground, both of us, and we're both crying, we're both just bawling, and I'm like, I couldn't even say it,
Yeah.
And I remember the phone, my phone rang again, and it was it was the sheriff's office, the coroner, and my husband gets the phone, and he's like, screaming into the phone, and so we get back to his truck. We should not have been driving.
Yeah.
We should not have been driving. We both get in the truck and we take off, and he's like, babe, I remember him saying, how do we get to my mom and dad's house? And I'm like, I don't know where we're at.
Yeah.
And we've lived in this town our whole life.
Right.
I don't know how long it took us.
Yeah.
To get to his mom's, which was 5 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And so we finally get there, and that was just the beginning of this horrible nightmare that just was this. You almost get to where you're just going through, trying to breathe. I remember just like my niece came and we told his parents, and I remember going in my mother-in-law's bedroom and I just curled up. You know, it's my son. This is and my one of my girls worked out of town. My other daughter, Allie, was home with her husband, and she recently told me that it was my husband that called her. There's still things I don't remember or I don't know.
Yeah, the trauma, you just don't remember.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
So we got home and there was like all these cars, and at our house people had found out what happened, and I just remember going into my bedroom and then putting the blanket over me and just going to sleep.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what the cause was. Nobody called us. Nobody called us after that. And it was like, I remember it was like the fourth day. And we're waiting. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm done waiting. So the coroner's office was right there on Flower Street. I remember it being a Saturday, and I told my husband, I said, we're going down there. He's like, babe, they're not going to let us in. We're going to walk that parking lot until somebody opens the door. Because nobody had called us.
Yeah.
To say what happened.
Right.
And he was 2 seconds from our house. He was at an apartment with somebody, an acquaintance of his, and so it just was. We went to the coroner's office. They finally opened the door, and they're like, "Ma'am, we can't. There's no door that says welcome."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's really it. Just he explained to me. He gave me the case number and who to call, but that was. It was no help because they kept him for 28 days.
Gosh.
28 days. And I just couldn't wait 28 days. I couldn't wait that long to have a service. One of his friends said, "Hey, Mom," they all call me Mom. "Hey, Mom, why don't we we can have a celebration of life anyway." And then I remember thinking, oh, we have to have a service. I mean, you don't think of all those things. And his best friend, Colby, came up to me. I remember him asking me, "Hey, Mama, is it okay if we do a GoFundMe?" And then I thought, oh my God, he didn't have a life policy. He's 27.
Your mind's jumbled. You just
don't, nothing is clear.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at him, and I remembered like, that next day he had put an amount out there, and it was phenomenal. Immediately the number kept getting higher and higher and higher, and I'm just I'm not only just in shock, but just the love, like
how many people he touched.
Oh my gosh,
it
was just so magnifying. It was I can't even find a word for it, but. And so a week later, we had my niece and my daughters just ran with it. I didn't do anything. Honestly, I didn't even want to go to the service.
Yeah.
But we get there, and there's like, we pull up. I remember us pulling up, and there's like all these people. I mean, so many people. And I'm like, is there another service? Like, is there one that was before ours? And, and one of his friends said, "No, Mama, they're all here for Joe." And I just, I remember just like walking in the church, there's just like from one wall to the other, just filled. The chapel was filled. The overflow was filled. There were people. There were so many people. And I'm thinking, who are all these people, and I remember like I literally could not feel I couldn't feel my legs. Like I couldn't feel, like my whole body like felt numb, because they had made this beautiful picture of him with this big beautiful smile, and There were so many flowers and it was just so much. And I just remember like thinking, I got to turn around because I got to see.
Yeah.
You know, I got to see who's here. And I just remember turning around and it was just this sea of people. I could not believe. And I wanted to touch every single one of them, you know?
Yeah.
And after all that was done, we had this reception and everything. And I think my husband and I, we really were just on autopilot
100%.
because it doesn't sink in.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
And then it was, like maybe a month later, we get this, I got it in the mail. I'm calling the police department going, and I'm just a thorn in their, but they don't know me. They don't know my son.
Right.
He's a number. He's a case number. And I remember calling one of the deputy coroners, and I said that to her. I said, I don't know what happened. It's been 2 months. I don't know what happened. Mm-hmm. She's like, nobody's called you. No, nobody's told me nothing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So she goes, are you okay to go through this? And I thought I was. So she's telling me everything about when they got there. And I just, and then like, she went step by step when they got there, and he had been gone. Like, they got a call on the 29th, but when they got there, she said he had been gone for over 12 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I'm going, wait a minute. So I start putting like these dots together, and I'm like, I still to this day do not know exactly what led up to that. The timing was all off.
Yeah.
So I got the coroner's vital statistics, and I just remember like I was reading it and going, wait a minute, like. So Joe was not perfect. He liked to have fun. Mm-hmm. He was recreational. That user where smoking weed every once in a while, drinking with his buddies.
Oh yeah,
all the things that they do when they're not everybody, but he liked to have fun.
Right? Yeah.
And so what the report stated was he had a heart condition that was undetected. We didn't know about. It's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's HCM.
Okay.
And it's dominant more in young adult males. And you don't even know you have it until it's too late.
Right, yeah.
And Joe had fainted a couple of times prior, like a year before, the year before that. He just fainted, but he came out of it.
Right.
Most of the time they don't come out of it. They can just be cooking dinner and faint, and that's it. It's over.
Oh my goodness.
So, and then there was this word that I hate this word, but it was right in front of me. It was fentanyl, and I said he had like sometimes he had a hard time sleeping. He had insomnia. He had anxiety. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was a lot of, we were very close. And but there's just some things a mom's just not going to know.
Right.
Your child's not going to tell you everything.
Right.
And when he did tell me everything, I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm good. I don't need to know anymore. Yeah. But, and I said to him, look, let's go to a doctor and let's get you a prescription and take it versus please don't get nothing from your friends or off the street.
Right.
But at that time, it really wasn't it wasn't so big as it is today.
Exactly. It's crazy today.
So, yeah. So that just, and it just became, so, we had a service and I remember just going, I remember that following week we were returning everything. There was a lot of places he worked. He was a server. He worked at different restaurants in town, and people donated things, food. I mean, it was just everybody just came together in this moment of love, and I just remember like I was just wanting to end everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not thinking about my girls, not thinking about my husband or my grandkids. I wasn't thinking about, you're not in your right mind. You're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
You're just thinking, I just want to be with my son because this pain is so heavy. I cannot take it.
Yeah.
And I remember I made my niece stop at a bar, and while she went to the bathroom, I don't know how many shots of me and Julio, what is it? This tequila or
Don Julio.
Don Julio. Me and Don Julio became best friends.
Yeah.
And I had taken some sleeping pills the night before. I wasn't trying to. I don't know what I was doing.
Just numbing the pain. You're just trying to.
I can't even say what
Yeah.
I just know that I couldn't. My sister told me she had to feed me because I'd stopped eating. You know.
Yeah, I know all those feelings. I definitely, I remember because I actually found Kyle at home with our 9-month-old baby.
Wow.
So, sorry, give me just a
That's
second.
okay.
So, yeah, I had come home and I had just talked to him about 2 hours before that. And he's like, I'm going to watch a movie and I'll see you guys when you get home. I was at my sister's. I took, we had the boys swimming in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came home and I was looking for him. And then I found him slumped over on the couch and I just screamed, And so I had called 911 and everything. And they were telling me how to give him compressions because I checked his pulse. He didn't have a pulse. But at the time I didn't think that he was gone. I'm like, oh man, this is scary, but I got this, he'll be okay. And so, I remember looking at my phone because I had it on speakerphone so that the guy on the phone, the operator was telling me how to give him compressions.
Yeah.
And so I remember looking at the phone and being like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 minutes. Where are you guys? I need you. I don't know how long he's been down, but he was warm. I had just talked to him. And so anyways, I just remember having to make those phone calls right after, like you talking about just talking to your daughters and just like you don't even remember it all.
Yeah.
But everyone was coming to my house because we were at our house, and I had to call his dad right away to come, and then I called my mom right away, and then
it's like, how do you make those? How do you make those?
Yeah.
How do you say that? My husband called Allie, and then my niece called Juliana, and Juliana had to drive from LA to home.
Yeah.
And I just was so out of it. Everybody did all those. So I can't even. I've talked to people who have found their child or their husband, and we never saw Joe again.
Yeah.
Nobody did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to see your husband, and he's slumped over, and your baby is...
Yeah, he was screaming at the top of his lungs, so I'm, over here, trying to, tend to Kyle, and I even thought in my mind for a second, oh my gosh, maybe I should run my baby next door, and then I'll come back, and I'm like, wait, I don't have time. I don't know what to do, and I remember I had to get him off the couch. That was the first thing. You need to get him on a flat surface, and so... when I was doing that, I just remember, the adrenaline, he was as light as a feather. I pulled him off that couch so fast.
Wow.
And, I mean, that I'm just, in this whole fog, and I just remember when the EMTs and fire department, everyone finally got there. Yeah. I just grabbed my baby, ran outside. I'm then making those phone calls, I need you here. I need you here now. I don't know. Kyle's unconscious. They're working on him right now. I don't know what's going on. And I remember after a while them coming to the front door, and they were just like, can we get the immediate family? So me and his parents go to the front door, and they were just like, I'm sorry, we did all that we could do.
Yeah.
And those are like the words that you feel like you hear from a movie.
You never. My phone call came at 11:14. No, 11:19. And every May 29th at 11:19, I'm looking at the clock, and it doesn't. Time has no relevance in grief.
Mm-mm.
When you lost somebody at the magnitude of your child or your husband or your wife, it just, there's no time. There's no relevance in time.
Right.
And so for me, it's I know May 28th. I know without a shadow of a doubt, because I remember looking at you start going backwards. You become this investigator, especially if you don't know anything.
Right.
So I start pulling his phone records, and we were so close that I guessed his password on his laptop, and it was the right one.
Yeah.
Although I didn't have that much luck on his phone. And he always said, "You'll never know my password on my phone. You'll never know." And he was right, because I tried too many times and then I locked it.
Oh, man.
Which was probably the best thing, because I just don't know. But I just remember looking at his phone log, and at 7:25, there was no more calls going out or in.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe's phone never stopped. It just, so I know that it's sometime in those moments that he was gone. And why the 911 didn't come till the 29th, I don't know, but it didn't.
Right.
And so, but it, so you just don't ever forget her voice. I'll never forget her voice. I'll never forget those words. And it just never leaves you. It just doesn't. Mm-mm. It doesn't matter how busy you try to stay. It doesn't matter how you try to, I don't even try to remove it out of my mind, because for me, it's like, I will talk about Joe every day. Mm-hmm. I have, I've had these spiritual moments that I know, you. So your husband, how long has it been for you? He passed away?
Almost 10 months.
Okay. So looking back, it's like that first year I wanted to do something. I wanted to change the world.
Right.
I'm going to conquer. I'm going to change the world. Mm-hmm. I remember calling this reporter, Channel 17, and I said, you know what? I have a story. I want to tell my son's story, yada, yada. She came, we met. I had, for 2 hours, and she was going to come to my house the following day, and then release this news report about how he passed away on his birthday, which was August 31st. Well, that night before, I'm cleaning up and everything, and I'm getting my house ready, and I told my girls about it, and I remember, them looking at me going, "You're doing what? You're going to say what? Why?" And, and I couldn't answer them. I couldn't answer why. Yeah. I just was like, because his story, I need to tell. I need to save another family. I need to do. And that night I had a dream. And I'm just going, in my dream, we're talking. And I'm saying, because Joe, I want to save somebody. Mom, why are you, and that's what I remember him saying. And that next morning, the news reporter called me and she said, "Hey, Elaine, can we move our interview to Friday? Because I've got something else that came up." And I thought, no, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment I realized I need to I remember my friend telling me, "Elaine, just be still."
Right.
Just be still it hadn't been April, May, June, July. It had been 3 months. And I just wanted to I was on overdrive, and I wanted to make, he wanted to start his own business. So I'm applied for, and I branded this 1990 he had created. He just hadn't perfected it, and he was still working on it. I'm like, I'm going to do hats. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do hats. I'm going to make hats and T-shirts and all this stuff. I'm going to start the business for him. Not even thinking, like, would he really want that? From his mom doing it? You know, I just wasn't. And so I did. And I spent a lot of money making these hats and shirts and everything. And then it was like, months had gone by, and a friend of mine said, Elaine, just, you know what? She had lost her daughter when her daughter was 14. She found her asleep in her bed. And she goes, Elaine, just be still.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be still. Allow yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to take in what has happened. And it was then that I started to kind of just take a breath.
Yeah.
Because it's too massive. It's still too massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's 6 years, and it's still too massive. But there's one thing I told myself once that things kind of started to, settle somewhat. I don't think it'll ever settle, but things I could see clearly a little bit. It was this. I don't ever want my girls to feel like I have forgotten about them because they're just as important to me.
Right.
And my granddaughter at the time, and so that became this ultimate, like, because I remember I had fainted at a beauty salon because I was drinking a lot of wine and not eating.
Yeah.
Numbing anything that came through, and it just turned in. And I think I was hospitalized 2 or 3 times that year, because it was Joe. It was Joe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was your husband. Like, how can he not be here?
Yeah.
How can this beautiful person just suddenly be gone?
And I'm sure even 6 years later, it just slaps you in the face.
It still does,
sometimes.
It's still
You're just like,
you
oh
cannot
my
process
gosh.
what's happened.
Yeah.
We have a message from our sponsors, Aspire Counseling Services. We just want to remind everyone that seeking treatment should never be stigmatized. Aspire specializes in providing support and treatment for both teens and adults with mental health and substance use disorders, recognizing that these conditions often do coexist. They are an amazing resource, and you can get started by texting or calling the number 888-585-7373 to enroll at any time.
And I know that I'm still in the recent, I'm still in the first year since he's passed, but I have lost quite a few people in my life. My friend and I, when we were 10 years old, she got hit by a car and she passed away 2 days later. And that was so traumatic. I mean, I was so young. I was 10 years old and I still remember everything. And I still sometimes will hear this song that was at her funeral and it was on her slideshow and everything, and I hear that song, the I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack.
Yeah.
And every single time I either have to change it or I sit there and listen to it and I still cry. And I'm like, man, that's been, however many years now.
Yeah. It's just that's what I'm saying. Time does not have any relevance in loss. I lost my mother. I lost my oldest sister. My dad died when I was 3 months old, so I didn't know him. There's no memories, but I thought to myself, when my mom died, I thought, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. Never comprehending or ever imagining I would lose my child.
Right.
And as a mother, you never, what I've come to learn is that you never really lose them.
Right.
Just because physically they're not here doesn't mean they're not, because they grow inside of you. We give birth to them. They come out.
Yeah.
We're always connected.
Right.
We're always connected. And what I've learned over the past 6 years, and it's taken me a while, and I don't share this with every person that I meet because people look at me like I'm crazy. But spiritually, there are messages that I have no doubt whatsoever, and I can say this 100% confidently, and that is that Joe is with us. And I'll share this one tidbit with you, and it's we moved from our house. We lived in a condo in the east side of town, and so we had moved because the owner was moving back. And that was incredibly difficult because Joe lived there. Joe had his bedroom, and I would go in his bedroom, and that was my sanctuary.
Right.
And my granddaughter would say, she'd stay the night, and she'd go, "Gee, let's stay in, are we going to sleep in Uncle Joe's room?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah," you know.
Yeah.
And I could feel this aura, and, you know, I could feel things, like, you know.
Right.
And so when we moved, it was extremely hard because I'm like, his bedroom, like how am I supposed to do this? But I had to.
Right.
And so we moved into this house, and we had our father come and bless our home. Well, my husband he's still mad at God, you know. I was his only son.
It happens a lot. Yeah.
And so he asked the father, he's like, "How will we know that Joe came with us? How will we know?" And I remember him saying, "Izzy, you'll just know. Something will click, something will happen, you'll just know." Well, that evening, it was Friday. It was a Friday. It was Good Friday, and I was there was a box that was sitting out in our porch that I was going to throw away. I told my husband, "Just throw that away. There's nothing in there. It's all old stuff." Because I retired from where I was working, and he's like, "Are you sure? Because there's a binder in here." I'm like, "Just toss it." And then I said, "No, wait, just hold it." So I sat down in that moment. I started going through stuff, and I was throwing things away. And here comes this red binder, which I had this red binder since I worked at where I worked at. And so I'm opening it, and I had saved everything, cards people gave me and everything. And I get to the very back of the binder, and there's this piece of paper, and it's folded. And it's in the very back in the little pocket. So I grab it, and I look at it, and and it's a letter from Joe.
Oh my God.
One was addressed to me. One was addressed to my husband. And I don't know how those letters, I've never seen this letter.
Wow.
I don't know. Well, my husband identified at the time. He goes, "Oh, that was when the Celtics beat the Lakers," because my husband was a Celtics fan and Joe was a Lakers fan. And so he wrote my husband a letter. He put, "Dear Pops." Hey, and so he's like, "I just want to thank you for loving me, and what do you think about those Lakers, And he's just going, "You've made me into the man that I am today," and I'm reading this, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh." And then I read my letter, and it was like, "Hey, Mama, I just want to tell you how much I love you." And I don't know where he was going at that time. I think I don't know. I can't tell you. I think he'd gotten in a fight in San Luis Obispo, and I think he had to go do like a few days in jail or something over there. But it was San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
And he put, "Before I leave, I just wanted to say how much I love you and appreciate you and thank you for being the best mom any son could ask for." And I'm reading this, and I'm like, and I just fall apart. And my husband comes outside. He's like, what are you reading?" And I'm just beside myself. And I gave him his letter, and he starts to read it, and he goes in the garage, and he shuts the door, and I could hear him in there crying. So these letters came, and so I remember calling Father going, "You are not going to believe this," and I told him about the letters, sent him a picture, and he's like, "Wow."
Yeah.
So my grief shifted to this, I found a way to stay connected.
Yeah.
And that was spiritually. And it was like after that, a dime would appear out of nowhere. One dime, not a nickel, pennies, change, one dime. And I've got this candle that's empty, that's almost full of just
your dimes
that we find. We'll be out of town, and there's a dime on when we were moving this past week, my husband's like, "Hey babe, come here." And so I go in the room, and he's taking the bed apart, and there's a dime on the bed frame of the bed.
Oh my gosh. You're like,
And I'm like, and I kiss it, and I, and I raise it up, and there's this part of you that just is like, I know he's not here, but he's here.
yeah, totally.
And it was just complete validation that they don't ever really leave us.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
Because there's that love and there's that bond that keeps you connected forever and forever. And in the beginning I dram about him. My daughter Juliana dram about him like every night that first couple weeks, and I couldn't wait to wake up in the morning to hear her come upstairs and tell me what she dreamt. And she dreamt Joe like in his room, and she's like, brother. In the dream, she's asking him, what do you do? He goes, sis, I'm getting something out of the refrigerator. And he'd open the refrigerator, and he'd have his laptop. And then, like, a few days later, he's like, I got to go, sis. Like, I can't stay here,
That just brings me, which it's so funny that you're talking about the dreams, because last night I was laying in bed just really thinking about the one dream that I had. And I really, like, after Kyle passed away, I didn't have dreams a lot. I just didn't have dreams. I don't know. Your brain is just like, you can't even think of anything, And so I just remember being like, man, I want to have a dream. I want to see him in my dreams, I just, even if we're just sitting there hanging out, I just want to have a dream. And I want to say it was probably a couple months after he passed away, I finally had a dream, but it was like, I remember how I felt like 100%. It's not, like, after I talked with my therapist, she was like, that's not a dream, that's a memory. So we were in Ventura, which it's funny because I had gone to school in Ventura and his family had grown up in Ventura.
Okay.
So even when we first met, we were like, wait, you know Ventura a lot too? Oh, I do too, And so my dream, we were in Ventura, and that was actually one of our only out-of-town trips. We went with our son. He was so young. So I just remember sitting there, and I was looking out at the beach. And I was by myself, but I was just looking out at the beach, and I remember seeing almost like a woman scattering ashes in the ocean. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Kyle wasn't cremated or anything, but a little bit later, I remember, I was just watching her, and I started crying. And then I kind of was like, okay, and just started to walk, and I felt, and someone grabbed me on my shoulder and just grabbed me.
Yeah.
And I remember turning around, and it was Kyle. And he literally, no words, he just grabbed my face, kissed me, and it was like I remember feeling it through my whole body. Like it was
real.
Just so real. I was just it took my breath away. Like, oh my gosh, he's here. I just remember that feeling. And I woke up, and I just started crying. It was like, oh my God, he just said bye to me,
Yeah. And they do.
Yeah.
They do. Joe came to me the first night. We were at my mom's house, and I dreamt him, and we were at my mom's, and in the dream, I'm sitting in the kitchen, and I see him coming in the backyard, and he's walking towards the door, and I stood up, and he walks inside, and I'm like, Joe, and he hugged me, and I'm just like, son, he goes, Mom, I'm sorry. I want you to know I love you. And I'm sorry. It was just a complete accident what happened, and I'm always gonna, and he's talking, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm just like, I remember him, because he used to always hug me, and I remember him putting his arms around me, and he's like, I love you, and I'm, Ma, he goes, he's coming, Ma, he goes, I love you, and Ma, and I'm always gonna be here for you. And it was, as I could feel, like you, I could feel the touch of his arms, his hands,
Right. Yeah.
and I remember looking at his eyes, and they were red, like he, and that was the first of many dreams that, and I think those dreams came to me. Then I start reading into what dreams mean.
Right.
but that was the first of many. In the beginning, it was all the time. And then gradually, it was almost like I started becoming a little more stable. I wasn't falling as much. And so it became somewhat less. But it was like he just knew, like, I needed him spiritually to be around me in any way, shape, or form to get through those moments, because you don't think, I really didn't think I was going to make it past the second year. I really didn't.
Yeah.
You just think I can't survive this. But I remember fainting at this beauty salon. My daughter took me to get my nails done, and I don't remember fainting, but when I opened my eyes, there was a lady my daughter was crying. Juliana was crying, and there was a lady praying in my ear. I don't know who this. Julie's like, Mom, just some random lady came and started praying over you. And, but I was dehydrated. I had, I was just not healthy. And it was then, I remember thinking, I gotta pull myself together, because I can't keep going to the hospital this way, or I'm not going to be here for them.
Right.
I'm not going to be here for, my husband and Ella. And then it turns out both of my girls got pregnant that year, and they each had a son.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, it was such a beautiful celebration. And then you think about, God, if Joe was here, he would be so happy, because he would always say, why didn't you have another son? I don't know, Joe. I did it. Why didn't you have one more child? I did it. And so he had two sisters. So I always used to say, you're going to be the best husband. You're going to be the best father.
Right.
And he just didn't get that opportunity. Right. And the heart, sometimes it's really, I was telling Teresa, it's just, you see everybody growing in their families and their children, and then they're getting married, and it's, and you're overjoyed and happy. At the same time, you think, God, like Joe, he'll never experience that, And so, but, we can't change it. Yeah. So we find a way to manage through it. Right. We find a way to, I do a scholarship at BHS every year in his honor. It's the Joe Suarez Memorial Scholarship. I give, away $500 to, Joe played baseball his whole life, and he loved BHS. He was so prideful. And so I give a scholarship away to, a senior, baseball player that's going to go on to, whatever that may be. You don't got to have a 4.0, because he was not a 4.0 kind of guy. But, you do have to submit the required information and stuff. And, I do it, there's things I do to honor him. And I do it for my healing. I started a memories page on Instagram. And so, it's my healing. It's, Regina King said something recently, she lost her son like a year or two ago. And she said, and it resonated with me so powerfully. And it was, I share this grief with many mothers, but I'm the only mother. I'm Joe's mother. And I'll always be the only mother. Right. So it's my grief. I own it. And I don't expect anybody to, I don't have no expectations from anyone. There's no sympathy card. There's no, you don't have to respond when but right. As a result of that, I started a Twitter page of just, and it's a feed that it's for just parents who've lost their child. And I don't know, I got like almost, 2,000 followers or something. I mean, it keeps growing. And I was telling them earlier, I go, after a while, it's like, okay, I got to post something. Yeah. No, and then I go, no, I don't have to. It's not about that. But I've met people. Right. And I've introduced Joe to the world.
Yes.
because Joe was, he was just a worldly kind of guy. He had this big smile and people were attracted to him. He brought people together and he had this vibe that just was big.
Right.
And someone said to me, one of his friends said to me, he was just too big for here. And I said, I get that, but I'd rather have him here.
Right.
So yeah, it's just you learn it, the pain never goes away. It will never go away.
Mm-hmm.
You just and I couldn't understand this at first because people would tell me this and I would tell them like whatever. But I joined this grief group of women and I've made incredible friends from this group, lifetime friends. And I remember this one mother said to me at a meeting I think it was a couple years ago, she's like, I didn't think you were going to make it. And when she said that to me, it made me realize like I was so fragile. 100%. You are so fragile. Yeah. I call it's kind of like you're a newborn.
Right.
You
need to be cared
so
for.
fragile and you're so raw. And I don't think I'm a newborn, but I know I'm like in that walking stage.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor. You just kind of find a way to manage through it.
Right.
It's like walking through fire. Like I would walk through fire to save my child.
Right.
Or my husband or my family. And it's going to hurt.
Right.
But I would rather talk about Joe and cry and hurt and be in pain than to not talk about him at all.
Right.
And I tell people that because some people will be like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, no, I'm crying, but let's keep, I want to know what you have to say. My nephew came to me one day and when all this happened, my nephew, EJ, he told me that he was at work one day and this young girl came up to him and she's like, she was crying. She's like, I'm so sorry about Joe. And he's like, why are you crying? And she goes, because I'm sad. Like, aren't you sad? And he goes, Joe's camping.
Yeah.
He's camping. He loved to camp.
Uh-huh.
And so when he told me that, I said, oh, yeah, he's camping.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see him. It's going to be a while. But we'll see him. He's just getting everything ready for us,
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, my nephew still says, he's camping. He took my air mattress, and I don't know what he did with it. He never gave it back to me. And so that you find ways, you find things to touch that you can hold on to get through those moments that are unbearably painful.
Right.
I mean, you would go to sleep every night and there was this beautiful person next to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you'd wake up and there's this beautiful person next to you.
Yep.
Suddenly, see your brain, our brains become routine. Mm-hmm. So that's a routine that developed over how many years you guys were married and together?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were together for almost
Suddenly,
6 years. Yeah.
He's not there anymore. And your brain's going, no, like, where's he at?
Right.
Like, he's going to come home.
Right.
He's going to come home. I know he's kind of going to come home. And I did that for the first year. I'm like, Joe just needed a break.
Yeah.
And because I didn't see him or talk to him again, it was, and everybody says the same thing. It's like he just vanished into thin air. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest, there's times in the beginning I would Google Joseph Suarez. My husband had a dream one night that he was living in Sacramento, married, and writing music with somebody. I don't know. And you know what I did? I Googled Joseph Suarez, Sacramento, California, and guess what? His name popped up.
Oh my gosh.
And he had a Target registry for a baby. And I'm going,
oh my gosh. Like, wait
a minute, what? It just was, you just find yourself doing like the craziest things.
Right.
But, yeah, I almost, and this is what's really crazy. I almost bought a gift and sent it to this couple I've never met.
My gosh.
I don't know who they are. But you find things to get you through, and that's okay.
Right.
If your mind is telling you he's going to come home, that is our brain protecting us.
Right.
It is protecting us from the pain that's unbearable pain.
Right.
Because now there's an empty space there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I know I didn't, my girls had to finally make me wash Joe's sheets because I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And they were like, Mom, they're getting, you need to wash them. I'm like, no.
It smells like it.
Yeah,
you don't
but
wanna
after a
wash
while,
it.
so you want to, even a candy wrapper. I found a candy wrapper in his room one night, and I'm like, it's like everything they touched, like you just savor.
Yes, you do.
You just protect it, you put it in a plastic baggie, and you save it.
Yeah.
Because he touched that.
Right.
Music that he listened to, I still pull up his Mac, his computer, and I'll listen to his music that his music list, and I cry. I still cry, because like that was his music.
Yeah. The music was the hardest thing for me. Still is.
And I didn't listen to music. I didn't listen to the radio for a good couple years. I'm just now, honestly, like where I can put the radio on. But if like Travis Scott comes on and there's there's a song on that he listened to, and it's just like I'll listen to it and I'll cry as I'm driving. Yeah. And then I can't, and then it's just, I can't breathe.
Right.
Like I'm like, I'm taking deep breaths and, it's just, so you find things that you can hold on to.
Right.
Because it's like, you have to let go, but you can't. It's like, I know Joe's okay. Your husband's okay. They're okay. They're safe, but we want them here,
And sometimes when you hear those people that are like, he's always going to be with you and all those things. In the beginning, I'm like, yeah, I know. And then finally there was a time where I'm like, I don't care if he's always with me. I want him physically here with me. Sometimes you just don't want to hear it, but it's like, I know he's always going to be here with me. You know what I mean?
But I want him physically.
I know,
like,
I want him here.
I want to feel him. I want to smell him. I want to kiss him. I want to,
But I lost weight too. I lost like over 15 pounds right when Kyle passed. I had my friends bringing over cases of, protein shakes to get me to eat something. And, and I too was like feeling just like, how am I supposed to do this alone? I have a 9-month-old baby and I'm a new mom, Kyle and I actually had just gotten engaged. So we never actually got married.
Okay.
So we got engaged in June, and he passed away in August.
Wow.
So it actually hadn't even been a full 2 months when he passed away since we had gotten engaged. And, I mean, that's a whole other thing. I'm sitting here wearing this beautiful ring that we talked about for so long. It was exactly like the picture I showed him like 5 years earlier. And like right in the beginning of our relationship. Really? I had not shown it to him again. And when I got that ring, I was like, are you kidding me? You remembered exactly what I wanted? And so that put me in a weird headspace though, because I was like, I'm wearing it. I realized I had been wearing the ring for longer with him gone than I did with him alive. Wow. And that was really hard for me. And I remember the last day I wore the wedding ring he got me was on his birthday.
When's his birthday?
January 7th. And so we went out to see him at the cemetery and everything, and I wore the ring, and I just remember just thinking, like, I feel like maybe now is the time to just put it away. I, of course, am one day going to give it to our son to hopefully give to his wife.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if she's good enough.
But she probably won't be.
Probably will never be.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just like, there's so many little things that, I mean, I feel like not a lot of people would think about, like, people aren't thinking about me thinking about this ring that's like, do I wear it? Do I not? This is so like putting me in a whole circle, like, yes, I'm going to wear it. No, I'm not. And anyways, it's just like, there's so many little things that you think about after they pass away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, like you too, you just get like, so like, you're just so depressed and you're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's heavy.
And for you had more daughters and your husband, and for me, I'm just like, I mean, I have my family and I'm just like, I've got my son. He needs me, I'm the only parent now and he needs me.
Yeah.
And it was just like, there was times where he's like in his crib, you know, and I'm just laying on my bathroom floor and I'm just crying. I'm just like,
And that's normal. Just
Yeah.
know that the things that you go through and the things that you experience that you may feel like, oh my God, you know, it is normal. And
right.
and nobody, unless they've gone through something in the same manner or even can't relate to because they've lost somebody, but it's your husband.
Right.
It's your
Right.
the man that you love, the man that
Right.
you both created life together.
Right.
The one that you were going to spend the rest of your life with. You know, people mean well, and this is what you'll see this, and it's that people mean well, but sometimes they just need to not say anything.
Right. Right.
You know, I have what I call a circle of trust. And it's a core group of people that I know never get tired of hearing me cry, never get tired of hearing me talk about Joe, never, and they will answer that phone or text message at any time of the day or night. It's so important that you have those people, because people are going to be in your life and then their life will keep going. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Their life keeps going. They go back to work. They call you and, how are you doing? I'm thinking of you. But then you're the only one experiencing what you're going through. And so...
And then the calls get a little bit less.
They get a little less. And they mean well, but they just... It is such a normal human being reaction. And that is their life keeps going. Your life has stopped. And to a degree, it has stopped.
Right.
You know, you are doing things that are worthwhile, that are helping you to begin the healing process.
Right.
But I don't think we ever really truly heal. I think we become where we can manage it better.
Right.
But you'll never love anyone again in the way that you loved Kyle.
Right.
You'll just love differently.
Right.
You know?
And I've actually just recently was just at home. I'm doing dishes and I'm just thinking to myself, and I've had times where, you know, I mean, I own a business. I have at the time Brooks was 9 months old, you know, so I've got a crazy little toddler right now. And so, you know, I've got a business, I've got my child, I've got a home that I'm taking care of, I've got animals, you know, there's just so many things to take care of on your own. And I've got overwhelmed a lot, you know, like even like this morning, I'm trying to get here and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to get ready. I need to get him ready, but he just wants me to hold him. And it used to be like, hey, you take him. I'm going to get ready real quick, you know, and so it's like the little things like that. And I just get extremely overwhelmed sometimes. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to scream, you know, and my poor animals, I'm like, get out of my way. And I just like, and then sometimes I'll just break down after that. And I'm like, that's not me. I've always had so much patience. I've always been go with the flow. Everything's good, you know? And I'm like, but you know, since Kyle's passed, I just find myself to get so quick to get irritable. I'm just very, I get overwhelmed very easily. And I, you know, was talking to my therapist about this last week actually. And I'm like, it's just not me. And
you're not you. See,
and then I came to that realization that I don't think, I won't ever be the same.
You'll never be that person. You'll never be that person that you were before he passed. I'll never be that mother I was, or that person I was before losing Joe. And then you become a different you.
Right.
And the hard part is trying to navigate to find out who this new person is.
Right.
Creating this, they call it a new normal. I don't want a new normal. I want my son.
Right.
You know, but we can't change it. And so what we do is we start something new.
Right.
We take a different route than you would normally take, that you would take before. Okay.
Right.
Find a new route to get here or to work. Because it's like that. I used to go up on Panorama and I would go to my daughter's house, and I would literally, I would look over the cliff and go, I wonder what. And then I'd keep driving, so I started taking a different route to her house because those thoughts were becoming more and more.
Right.
And then you start to think, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. And I felt this sense of like I am, that's not who that's not who I am.
Right. Yeah.
So you're not.
Yeah.
You're not that person.
No.
My friend lost her husband. It was a year ago, I think, in like April, and they were married like 36 years. And he passed away from cancer that he fought for 16 years. She took such good care of him, and now she's like trying to rediscover who she is.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if it's 6 months, 9 months. It's like I don't hate it, but it's like when people go, so, how long has it been? But does it matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be rude, but I'm like, or what did he die from? Why does it matter what he?
Yeah.
He's not. And I've had 2 people in the 6 years ask me those questions. 2 people. And I gave the same answer. I said, that's irrelevant. I'm not even going to answer that because it's not. It's not a question I feel comfortable answering. It's irrelevant.
Right.
He's not here. And, so everything shifts. Mm-hmm. Everything. And you being now a single parent, just know that like it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to scream.
Yeah.
I would drive in my car, and I'd have all the windows up, and I would scream at the top of my lungs. I had to pull over one time. I remember pulling over in Smart and Final, and it was the pandemic had started, and I cried. I sat there and I cried for like I don't even know how long. And I walked inside the store. I thought, well, it was a Tuesday, because I remember thinking, I'll just make tacos tonight,
Yeah.
And there was a line to go in. So as I'm coming out, there's this kid, right? And this kid's talking to this man, and this man's giving him this church card or whatever. Mm-hmm. And earlier in that day, I was cleaning my wallet out, and I found a $5 bill and a $1 bill, and I tucked it away. I'm like, I might need that for an emergency. So as I'm getting in my car, there's a knock at my window. And it's this kid, and he's got dreadlocks and, clean cut, but had been raining, and I had been crying, and I put the window down. He's like, ma'am, do you need your windows cleaned? I'm like, it's just got done. Yeah. No. And then I thought, yeah, okay, go ahead. So I'm looking for change. Okay. I'm looking for change, and I'm going through my wallet and stuff. And I hear Joe, Ma, give him the $5,
Uh-huh.
What the heck?
Yeah.
So I'm looking, I get quarters out, I get nickels out, whatever. And he's like, Ma, just don't be cheap. Give him the $5. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like going, okay. And I'm hitting my face, and so the kid comes, and he's like, would you like your back windows done? I'm like, no, I'm good. I said, you know what? I go, what is your name? I mean, is this your side hustle? What are you doing? He's like, yeah, kind of. And I said, so what's your name? And he's like, well, my friends call me JoJo, but my name's Joseph. And I'm like, and then I just start crying. And he grabbed, it's a stranger. I've never met this kid.
Right.
He got my hand, and he goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I couldn't even talk, Yeah. And I'm going, my son's name was Joseph, I'm like, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 26 or something like that. And I go, here's the $5. Take the $5 here,
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you. And it's these moments that you will find when you open yourself up to believing, you will find that there's a way to stay connected without harming myself, and so that there's that peace, because I don't want to disturb his peace. But it's a time thing. It's like getting there. It takes a while to get there. Like I said, you're so raw still. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing is you're keeping busy. You find those people that are going to get you through those moments, and know that that's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to sit and have a meltdown.
Right.
Get it out. Let let it come out. Let it just burst through your skin pores, because when we fight it and we just, like let it sit there and fester because it's too painful, I would rather go through the pain. I would rather go through the tears and it's like a cleansing, and then go, okay.
Yeah.
And I just remember that night getting him back in my car, and I looked up, and this kid, I don't know where he went, but he was either ran, walked fast, I don't know, but he was gone. And it's those moments that you know that like there's something bigger. There just is. There's something more powerful and bigger, and I know that he's okay.
Right.
And I know that he's safe.
Right.
And he's not struggling with whatever he was struggling with, because he had some struggles, but it wasn't for me to know. I wasn't supposed to know. I wasn't supposed to find him. I wasn't supposed to see him. I wasn't, all those things I questioned. I remember my daughter going, Mom, what if we had found him here at home? I think about that and I go, I could not, it just, with Joe, it was just, I wasn't, there's things that happened in an order that were meant to be, and I can't change that. We want to change, go back in time. God, just give me one more minute. Just give me one more minute. I just need one more minute. And he did. He did. I had one more minute. And you will find things that will bring you some sense of comfort in a small way. And those small things become bigger, and they become bigger, and they become more manageable, that you can get through those moments that you think, I cannot keep going.
Right.
I cannot. How am I supposed to keep going without him?
I know.
Yeah. We talk when we're all together, me and Allie and Julie and my husband, and we start share. We'll all just randomly, we'll all get together and we're laughing and talking, and we start talking about Joe, and then we're laughing and we're not crying. It's just, and then when we're done, I remember one day my daughter Allie was like, Mom, it was like as if Joe was right here. He was right there.
Yeah.
And so
I definitely do feel Kyle's presence all the time.
And that's okay.
All the time. Yeah.
And it's okay. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just, you know what, the dimes and all of those things. It's like, unless you've gone through it, and unless you are familiar with what is happening, that they don't know, you can't understand it. People can't understand it. You know.
Right.
Well, it's been 6 years. You should, you need to. I need to do nothing. I need to do what exactly I'm doing.
Right.
Talk to me when I don't wish this upon anybody.
Right.
But your life changes and you become somebody else. So you just find a new you. You find a new normal.
Yeah.
And you will.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a while. It may
Right.
be a while. It may not.
Right.
But I think that if you can, I would say, if there's one thing I could say to you, would be find those people that that will stay by you. That my circle of trust, and those people have never, 6 years later, have never failed me. When in the beginning it was like 10, now it's like 4 or 5.
Right.
Because I've had to kick a few out of the circle,
Right. Yeah. And that happens, and I hear that happens all the time.
And it just does, because it just does. And so it just becomes, your life changes and everything about it and who you are, and especially your son. I'm sure you see things in him that are incredibly like a image of your husband.
Yes.
Or things that he does or says. Or
oh yeah, he'll do things too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, your dad would just love that,
right?
And because Kyle was he was a musician. He played guitar, drums, and the piano, and so Brooks, my son, he takes to all the musical toys and stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually had a friend, he had lent Kyle a guitar, and we had it at our first apartment for a while, and Kyle would just sit on the couch and play it. And I have so many videos of him playing it, this blue, beautiful guitar. And my friend actually just recently gave it to me for my son and said, I want
your son to have this. And I think that would be so special. And so it was actually just last week, my son saw it and he's just like, and he's sitting there and he actually was going back and forth
Really?
on the guitar like that. And I'm like, oh, your dad
show
would
him
love
the videos.
that.
Yeah, like show him videos.
Oh,
Let him watch
100%.
videos and say his name.
Yes.
All, we do that with my grandkids.
Right.
And now it's like my grandkids, they all know Uncle Joe, that Uncle Joe,
Right.
Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe. We go to the cemetery. They come with me. I have a niche where I have some of his, remain like a little, like he's at home with us, but it's not his final resting place. And I know
Right.
we have, so I bought a niche at this fountain. And then I had this ring. I had a ring made. So this ring actually has, some of Joe, and that's his birthstone. And so
that's
he's
amazing.
Always he's like, he's with me now, going, okay, Mom, that's good. You're good, Mom. But we say his name every day. We say his name.
Right.
If somebody's uncomfortable with that, then they can leave the room.
Right. Yeah. And
Because
Brooks, it's so cool that I do have so many videos and pictures of Kyle. Like, I mean, there's actually
love that. Yeah.
unlimited pictures and videos of Kyle because he was always being goofy.
Yeah.
He was always playing his music. So like the videos, I'm like, some of them we might have to wait until Brooks is like of age to see. I'm like, you don't want to see these videos of your dad being crazy. But no, it's so nice that we have that to share.
Yeah.
And my sister actually right away asked for one of Kyle's shirts. And so I got this nice collared shirt that he had, and I gave it to her, and she had a bear made out of it. And so bear actually has this same collar. So the bear has the collar on, and it has the pocket. So I have that, and I have it sitting just in my entryway on my table, and it's just, tall enough out of Brooks's reach because I don't want him to ruin it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he can't have it yet, And then the other day, he's countertop height now, so he grabbed it, and the foot has a voice box in it. And so the day that Kyle passed, that morning, I took Brooks outside. I was just watering my front grass because my sprinklers had broke. And so we went outside, but Kyle had seen us on the Ring camera. And so he's talking to us through the Ring camera, and he started singing Bye Bye Friends, this song from this show that Brooks loves to watch.
Wow.
And so he said, "Bye Bye Friends, we'll see you again real soon," is the song.
Really?
Yeah, that morning. And because he passed away 8:17, and that video was recorded at 8:17. So it's 8:17, 8:17, and I was like, this has got to be a sign, And so that voice, the Bye Bye Friends song, Kyle singing it, was put into the bear, and Brooks grabbed his foot, and he heard his dad's voice, and he looks at me, and I was like, who is that? He's like, Dada. And he knew his voice. And that was the first time I had realized he doesn't just know his face. He knows his voice. And he right away was like, Dada. And, of course you try and you really try and see the signs and everything. And so this whole 8:17, I'm like, there's got to be some purpose for it. And I can't say exactly what chapter, verse, whatever in the Bible. But when I looked up 8:17, it showed up, I love those who love me. Those who seek me will find me. And
that is so amazing.
Yeah. And
that's
so I know,
beautiful.
I just got chills
I know.
again.
That is so beautiful.
And so I was just like, wait, this is so crazy. Like, I'll find you through the signs, And then I did start to think about even more, and I'm like, but I think he was also like, you need to really lean into your church, because he had always talked about the Bible and talked about God, and we just never really actually went to church a lot. And so we went a little bit, but he passed away on a Thursday, and so that first Sunday I didn't go to church, but the next Sunday I went to church, and then the next Sunday, and I just continued to go to church every Sunday since. And the very first time I went to church after he passed, the message was like, you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why? And all this stuff. And it just related so much. And I was like,
I'm meant to be here, you know? And I just felt like
those are all such
it was, multi meanings to that
spiritual
video.
connections to everything. And
he was saying bye. Then it was like, if you seek me, you'll find me, but also lean into your church. And I really just felt like, I mean, I had so many signs right after that, and leading up into the funeral. I kept seeing the number 53, 53, 53. And when I looked it up, it says it's a very strong guardian angels telling you that, you know, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was saying, you know, that look for hope, and you have, like, you know, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a very positive message. And I was like, that's definitely Kyle. And then when I was leaving for the funeral, it was 8:53. And a song came on, and it was Without You by the Dixie Chicks. And he loved to listen to me sing the Dixie Chicks, because I had always loved the Dixie Chicks since I was a little girl. And so I'd always sang it to him, and he would put it on and be like, all right, babe, sing it. You got this, you know? And so it was just fun. I don't have a good voice at all. He just loved to hear me sing those specific songs. And so, but I never listened to Without You that much. And so it's just talking about being without you. And I'm like, wow, he put this song on. I said, not funny, Kyle, because I'm just going to sit here and cry. But I'm like, but at the same time, it kind of like made me really feel like he was going to walk me through his funeral. You know what I mean? And I remember talking with my therapist, and she had said the same thing. She had lost her husband. And so she was like, you know, just if you feel like you're just like, you know, you feel him with you, and you feel like you're kind of just floating through this service, it's because he is there with you. He's guiding you through that funeral, and he's holding your hand.
And in the moment, you don't really think about those things. But like I said, you find yourself like thinking back and like, oh, you know, just, you know, at Joe's service, I remember I was just crying. I remember the father walking up to me and saying, Elaine, Mama, Joseph is here. He needs you to be here, and he needs you. And I just remember looking at him, at the father, and then all of a sudden, like my husband, because we were both just like, and I just remember my husband, like, suddenly he just this pillar of strength. And my girls were on that side of him. I was on this side of him. And he just became this pillar of strength for us. And I'll never forget that, because it's huge. It's those huge moments that you think, you look back and I go, you're in disbelief. Like this really, that song coming on, you know, I mean, it's kind of, you can sit there and go, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's not a coincidence.
No, it's not.
You can tell yourself that, but then time and time again, things continue to happen, or you experience, and it's not a coincidence.
It's not.
That is him reaching you, and you, your belief, your faith is open to believing, and that's why you can still connect to him, you know, and
100%.
And you'll get those more often than you realize. Just embrace them, and even as hard as it is, I just advise you to just take it in and breathe it in and soak it in, and all of the above, because those moments, you know, they come and they go, and they're so brief.
Right.
You know, and you want them to last.
Right.
And they can't. So you just, if it's there, like, grab it.
Right.
Until it's gone, because it really is. It's just so it's monumental. It's so big, and then it just makes you realize, like, there's just some. I've always been a believer, and I'm you know, I don't go to church every Sunday, and I don't get, but I know that God has given me an opportunity to stay in this place and grow and help other people and help other moms and individuals who've lost somebody, because it is, unless you've gone through it, you can't. It's so hard to describe the pain.
Right.
But you just learn to. Somebody said to me the other day, they go, I've heard that when you lose a child that, it never goes away. And I'm thinking, when you lose a husband or when you lose a mother or a daughter, but it doesn't go away.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it doesn't, it never leaves. And we've been so busy like moving these past few days. And last night before I went to bed, I got Joe's portrait and I put it out on by the fireplace. And I'm like, okay. I felt better. I felt better because it's just a picture, but it's not just a picture,
right.
And he's there with us. I know he's there with us, and it's But for a minute, because I got so busy, I'll be honest. For a minute, I got so busy that I hadn't taken his picture out yet. His portrait. It's a big, beautiful portrait of his beautiful smile, and I put it by the fireplace, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hope Eris doesn't tip it over and it breaks, But that's okay. I'll get a new frame. But it's just like
It's to be there. Yeah,
it'll be there. So it's just it felt really good to put that out last night, out of all the boxes and everything. And I'm sifting through pictures, and I went, okay, we're good, right? Yeah, okay.
Right.
So there's so many things that you will face and fall apart, and
right.
but the key is that to get back up.
Right. And something that you said too that sticks with me, it's just the fact to like let yourself sit there and just breathe, because I have been so much in this place of like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And just recently, even one of my employees was like, you need to take a breath and like be a little easier on yourself. You're so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, trying to wear so many hats at once, and
that's hard. It's so hard, especially your baby is so young.
Yes, yeah.
And it's just you now.
Yeah.
And it is, but it isn't, but it is.
Right.
Because physically, you're the only one in the house with your child,
Right.
But it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
Just know that, I have a therapist too. So,
Yes.
and I love her.
Therapy is great. We need
Yeah.
therapy.
So, but allow yourself to cry.
Right.
Allow yourself to, scream. Allow yourself to sit there and just fall apart. Go through it, and then get yourself up.
Yep.
And you go, and like I have my son. You have your child, your baby that needs you. I have my girls and my husband and my grandkids. But there's a piece of me. There's a piece of me that will never be whole.
Right. Yeah.
Because I can sit there and think, we're all having this Christmas or holidays or whichever, but Joe's not there. I see my husband rolling around with the boys on the floor, and he's laughing, and they're laughing, and I'm thinking, God, Joe would just adore these boys,
Yeah.
and Ella, like she's such a princess, and but it's like you'll never, that part of your soul will never completely be whole. So you just. And you don't want it to, it's not that you don't want it to be, but it's like, that is where he's right here, and, it just grief takes you to so many places.
It does.
Just when you think like, okay, I'm good. And then suddenly this tsunami wave comes and it just knocks you over.
Right.
So prepare yourself to expect it when you least expect it, because we're never really gonna be who we were before.
Right.
So
you
just find a new you somehow.
Yeah.
And you will.
Totally.
You're already doing it.
Yes.
This is great. So
you know what? And I would say that the only reason why I feel like I've handled, which there's always your moments, but I feel like the only reason that I've kind of been the way that I have since Kyle's passed is just because I have gone through tragedy before, and I did see something traumatic beforehand, and I don't want to say, oh, I was experienced in something traumatic, you know, but it definitely did help get me through.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's that God has more purpose for you in other ways. And although you lose your faith maybe a little bit in the beginning, and you just want to be like, how could I believe in this plan that God has for me if this is happening, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain things that I just
we have a purpose.
Yeah.
We have a purpose. I'm still trying to find. It's like I'm still trying to find that. I know kind of where I'm supposed to go, but you know, I'm letting God just place it in front of me,
and
I'll
that's
know.
okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. In the meantime, I just stay busy with my my grandbabies.
Exactly.
And, you know, so it's all good though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For coming and sharing your story and Joe's story.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just think it's so important for people to know like how special our people were, and not to have this stigma also that it was like, you know, Kyle wasn't just some drug addict.
No.
And, you know, obviously Joe wasn't like that. It was just so sudden and very unexpected.
It's a sudden. Yeah, it's a sudden that. But I don't think even if you know it's coming, it still doesn't help. It's not any easier. It's just.
No.
It's just they're gone. They're physically gone, and so we find ways to manage it.
Right.
And you will, and you are doing it. So I'm really happy, and thank you for inviting me to talk with you. It was wonderful to meet you today.
It was so good to meet you too.
And I love your story and what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing that you are. You know, people are going to tell you, "Oh, you're so strong." Yeah.
Yeah, people say that, and you're just like,
But,
man,
you know,
you should have seen me a couple hours ago.
Yeah. So, you know, just take it in and just go through the moments as they come.
Gosh.
You know. Tomorrow's not here yet.
Right.
So you focus on now.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.